Good night, America. It's time for your news by the numbers. Tonight's number is 1 million. That's right. Florida voters will have a chance to restore the voting rights to more than 1 million former felons through a ballot initiative this November. The Voter Restoration Amendment would automatically restore the rights to citizens convicted of felonies who have completed their prison sentence, parole, or probation. Only those convicted of murder or felonies or of a sexual offense would be excluded, and it is about damn time. Now, let's talk about Florida in particular, because Florida really contributes to the larger problem of what I like to call voter disenfranchisement. Okay, so there are about 2.5% of our population are formerly incarcerated or individuals who have committed a felony and served their time to society, but they are disenfranchised from our voting process, meaning they pay their taxes, but they don't have a say in who represents them on the state, local, and national level. But what makes it more interesting is in Florida in particular, they account for 27% of that 2.5%. So 1/4 of those individuals disenfranchised from the voting process live in the state of Florida. Now, for a long time, Republicans have been adamantly against this, and it has nothing to do with this ideal of the Constitution or this ideal of, how we believe in the American voter, right? Like we saw at the State of the Union this week where they were chanting USA and they walk around with the Constitution. But this is how I like to say it. They walk around with the Constitution in their coat pockets. They have the American flag on the lapel of their suits, but they trample on American values each and every day. And one of those fundamental values, people, is the right to vote. And if you have served your time to society, if you've served your time, you've done your bid, you should have your right to vote restored. Now let's take a look. I mean, there's a lot of states that have every state sort of manages their voting process. And so of the 50 states, when it comes to felons getting the right to vote, there are 50 different ways to do it. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you're looking at a map here from Mother Jones, which shows those states who you never get your voting rights back, some states where you have to wait, there's a waiting period, other states where you have to apply for clemency. Some things are very complicated. I used to live in Florida. The Florida process is the most complicated of them all. So in Florida, if you have committed a crime, you have served your time, basically you have to literally write the governor a letter. The governor's office of clemency has to read your letter, and then they have to restore your rights. Now, Florida's not the only state that has some pretty crappy laws. Virginia also has some crappy laws, but thanks to the former governor of Virginia, Terry McAuliffe, they have restored the right of literally every convicted felon who has done their time in society in the state of Virginia. Terry McAuliffe gets the award, and I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, if you believe in America, if you believe in our democracy, if you believe in the people having the ability to vote, then you should thank Terry McAuliffe. He has restored more rights than any other governor in American history. Period. Period. Because this is not a Democrat or Republican issue. This is an issue about protecting our democracy. And the only way we can protect our democracy is if every single eligible person has a say. And those individuals who have committed a felony but done their time to society, have paid their restitution, have been quote-unquote rehabilitated and corrected, who now pay taxes, should have the right to vote, period. Now, let's talk a little bit more about Florida before, I know I went on a diatribe, but let's talk about Florida in particular. So the amendment reached so in Florida to get something on the ballot, to get a constitutional amendment on the ballot, you have to have 766,200 petition signatures. Thanks to the work of some amazing individuals in community and people coming together, they have ascertained those signatures. Now what has to happen, now let me just say this, and I'm going to explain this whole thing to you, but as a total caveat and a side note, this is a lot of jumps, this is a lot of hurdles to jump through just to get the right to vote. Remember I talked about on the show a couple weeks ago that it's easier to apply for car insurance, it's easier in some states to get a mortgage than it is to register to vote. This is what I'm talking about. So, when you get those signatures in Florida, then it goes on the ballot. And when it goes on the ballot, you need 60% of the vote to get it to become law. So that means 60% of Florida voters this November have to go to the polls and vote yes on this ballot initiative to give the 1.5 million convicted felons in the state of Florida the right to vote. Now, let me be very clear. Now, yes, there's a lot of African Americans and a lot of African American groups advocating for this issue. But this is not a black issue. This is not a white issue. This is not a Hispanic issue. This is not an Asian American issue. This is an American issue. Because only 1 in 4 of these individuals are African American. And everybody should have the right to vote, no matter what your color, your creed is. You should have the right to vote in this country, period.